Hello and welcome to MOOC lectures on strategy and introduction to game theory. I am going to discuss one more game for which I will obtain perfect Bayesian equilibrium, and this module is going to be the last module of this course. We have many more things in game theory to cover, but given the scope of the course, this is what we thought would be appropriate to cover in this course. So, let us start with gift game first. What do we mean by a gift game? Let us look at a very simple game which looks like very similar to an entry game. What do we have here? Let us say there is a player, a person. Person can decide either to give a gift to person 2 or player 2, or decide not to give any gift. So, if he decides not to give any gift, then game ends. Here say no gift, and here we have gift. Here is player 1, and if game ends and both the players get 0. If player 1 decides to give the gift, then player 2 can either accept it or reject it. If player 2 accepts, then both of them get 1, and if player 2 rejects, then player 1 gets disappointed and gets -1, and player 2 gets 0. By the way, this game I have taken from a very nice book on game theory by Joel Watson. It is called Strategy and Introduction to Game Theory, very similar to the name of our course. If we obtain the equilibrium, what do we get here? Very simple. If we use backward induction, player 2 will of course accept, and given that player 2 will accept, player 1 will gift. So, there is only one backward induction equilibrium or subgame perfect equilibrium, that is give a gift and player 2 will accept. But let us say there is two different types of player 1. One is friend type that we just discussed, and another is enemy type. What happens, how the enemy type is different? The game proceed in the same manner, but the payoffs are different. Here, because the gift is coming from enemy, so it's the assumption is that it's not really a gift, it's some prank. So, player 2 gets -1 if player 2 accepts, and if player 2 rejects, then player 1 of course wastes his time giving this gift, and so player 1 gets -1 and player 2 gets 0 as the previous case. The only difference is here. In the first case, player 2 gets 1 after accepting, here player 2 gets -1. This game is also very simple to solve. Why? How? Because we can use backward induction, and here player 2 gets to play. So, between accepting and rejecting, let us call player 2 C. C would be better off by rejecting. So, game will proceed in this direction, and player 1, let us call player 1 he. So, he would be better off by not giving the gift, because giving the gift means rejection, and rejection will get -1, and not giving the gift will get 0. So, game will proceed in this direction, and only one backward induction equilibrium we will get, that is n comma r. This is very simple so far, very nice, very simple game, but we will add only one twist now, and that twist is that player 1 knows his type, whether he is friend type or the enemy type. Unfortunately, player 2 she does not know whether the person who has approached her with a gift is a friend type or the enemy type. How should we model this game? We have learned the notion of dynamic Bayesian games or extensive games with incomplete information. Here player 2 does not know the type of player 1. Player 2 does not know whether this game is being played or this game is being played. So, clearly game is of incomplete information. So, we will try to transform this game into a game of imperfect information, and how can we do that? We can say that nature makes a move first, and nature selects the type of the player 1. So, let us say nature moves first, here is nature moves first, and with probability p nature selects that the player 1 is of friend type. Here let me write friend type, let us get rid of these two, and here enemy type. So, with probability p, nature selects the type of player 1 as friend, and with remaining probability 1 minus p, nature selects the type of the player 1 is enemy. Our assumption here is that this p is known to the player 2. Why? What is the intuition? What is the background story? Background story is simple, that player 2 has some experience, and whenever someone approaches her with a gift, she has basic notion that what percentage of people are of friend type and what is the proportion of people who are of enemy type. This p and 1 minus p, we are getting it from that particular notion. So, this is known to player 2. So, let us say right in the beginning, both player 1 and player 2, they do not know the type of player 1, but nature moves, and nature's this move is gets revealed to player 1. So, player 1 knows his type, and but player 2 does not know player 1's type. So, now we also have to connect this, because player 2 does not know whether she is moving at this particular node or she is moving at this particular node. Now, game is fairly complex in a sense that we cannot use the typical concepts that we have used so far. We have to use the notion that we just learned, that is the extensive form game with incomplete information. This game can also be represented slightly differently. In many books it looks tidy to represent in that way, that nature moves first with probability p and with probability 1 minus p. Here we have friend type, here we have enemy type. F I am using for friend type, E I am using for the enemy type. Let me erase this. And friend type can take one of these two action, give a gift. Let me say I put a superscript f just to indicate that this gift is coming from friend type. Let me also erase it here. And player and this friend type can also decide not to offer any gift. So, no gift from friend type, and in this case game ends. Similarly, here enemy type, no gift from the enemy type, here game ends and they get 0, and enemy type can also offer a gift. So, here G E, and of course, here player 2 can either accept or reject, here accept or reject, and this should be connected because player 2 is not able to distinguish between this node and this node. And the payoff we already have from the earlier game. Both representation are fine. I am just copying the payoffs. Okay. So, this can also be used. Let us try to solve this game. How did we solve in the earlier case? We started with one of the strategies of one of the players. Let us say, let us start with the strategies of player 1. What are the strategies of player 1? We should have here GF and GE. So, strategies of player 1 would be player 1 is of two different types. So, we will have to describe an action for each of the different types of player 1. So, possibility is GF, GE, that both the types decide to give a gift to player 2. Second would be NF, NE. In this, both the types decide not to give a gift to player 2. Third would be GF, NE. In this, only friend type decides to give a gift to player 2, and similarly we will have a fourth one in which the friend type will decide not to give a gift and the enemy type will decide to give a gift. One thing I should mention it, that it does not sound plausible that why would enemy type give a gift and friend type would not give a gift. When we are describing the game, we do not have to think about what would actually happen in the game. We only have to describe it. So, that is what we are trying to do here. So, the fourth one is NF, GE. if you pay attention to here in first two, both the types are taking same action. This is also called pulling, and here both the types are taking different action. It is called separating. Okay. So, we were talking about the if good type will try to signal, although it is not built here, try to signal how if somehow he is the only one who decides to gift and enemy type is not able to give a gift, then it would be a credible signal to player 2 that player 2 should accept the gift. Okay. But let us solve the game. So, let us start with GF GE from player 1. So, player 1 plays GF GE, and let us say player 2 believes that this node is reached with probability q and this node with probability 1 minus q. Here what happens? Both the types are taking the same action. So, this is prior known to both the player 2 sorry, this is known to player 2 that a priori player 1 is of friend type with probability p and enemy type with probability 1 minus p. So, if both types offer gift in the equilibrium, then player 2 does not learn anything new. So, in this case q is going to be equal to p. Now, let us calculate what should player 2 do, and to figure out that we have to see what would be the payoff of player 2 if she plays A or if she plays R. If she plays A, her payoff would be 1 with probability P and minus 1 with probability 1 minus P. So, 1 multiplied by P plus minus 1 multiplied by 1 minus P, and this is equal to 2P minus 1. And if player 2 decides to play reject, in this case no matter which node is reached, she always gets 0. So, it is 0. So, now it depends on the value of P. So, let us say again, then we will have to make a jump, we will have to think about what is the value of P, but here we are solving for a general case. Again the solution, the equilibrium would depend on the prior belief of player 2. Let us say that prior belief is that 2p minus 1 is greater than or equal to 0. It means p is greater than or equal to half, that means player 2 will play A. So, player 2 will play A, then let us see what is the best response from player 1. Player 2 is going to accept. So, player 1, if player 1 is of friend type, player 1 knows his type, player 1 does not have to worry about, player 1 knows his type. So, player 1, if player 1 is a friend type, he can either decide to give a gift or decide to withhold the gift. If he decides to give a gift, it will be accepted and his payoff would be 1, and if he decides not to give a gift, his payoff will be 0. So, friend type is better off by giving the gift. So, best response from the friend type is to give a gift. How about the enemy type? Enemy type, giving the gift means, because player 2 is going to accept, so it will means a gain of 1, the payoff would be 1, and if player 1 decides, enemy type decides not to give a gift, then payoff would be 0. So, of course, best response would be to give a gift. So, we started with GFGE and we see that GFGE is the best response. So, what do we obtain? That GFGE comma A with Q is equal to P whenever P is greater than or equal to half is a PBE. So, what we saw, if player 2's prior belief about the type of player 1 is that most of the time, more than half of the time player 1 is of friend type, then player 2 would accept, and with the belief equal to that prior probability, and this would be a perfect Bayesian equilibrium. So, this is a pooling equilibrium, both types do the same thing. Now, let us start with the other pooling equilibrium, that is a possibility that in which player 1, both the types of player 1 decide not to offer any gift. So, what we have? We start with NF NE. As we are talking about NF NE, game will never reach to this information set which had these two nodes. So, player 2 can have any prior belief on Q. Okay. So, let us say that belief is Q. We have already figured out that player 2 plays A if Q is greater than or equal to half, and player 2 will play R if Q is less than or equal to half. So, let us say that player 2 plays A, best response from player 2 is A. If player 2 plays A, then the best response from player 1 would be it would depend on the type of player 1. If player 1 is of the friend type, in the previous slide we figured out that friend type would decide to offer a gift, and so would the enemy type. So, if player 2 is going to accept the gift, both types would offer a gift. So, we will have here GF GE. Here we start with NF NE and we reach to GF GE. So, there cannot be any equilibrium of in which player 1 is playing NF NE and player and there cannot be any equilibrium in which player 1 is playing NF NE and player 2 is playing A. How about player 2 playing R? If player 2 is playing R, again it depends on the prior belief of player 2. If player 2 believes that Q is less than or equal to half, then player 2 will play R. So, if player 2 is playing R, what would be the best response from player 1? If player 1 is a friend type, then not giving a gift would give him 0 and giving the gift would give him -1. So, the best response would be not to give a gift. And if player 2 is of enemy type, again not giving a gift is gives a payoff of 0 and giving a gift gives a payoff of -1. So, best response is NE. So, because 0 is greater than -1. So, we start with NF NE, we reach back to NF NE. So, here we found an equilibrium, and let me write it. It is NF NE comma R with Q has to be less than or equal to half. So, this is another pooling equilibrium that we obtain. We may have more equilibrium. Deliberately I have selected an example which has many equilibrium. So, you understand how equilibriums are obtained in the case of perfect Bayesian games. Okay. So, now we will move to the separating one. What do we have? Let us say in which we will start first with the friend type offers a gift and enemy type does not offer a gift. In this case, again let us say that player 2 will start with the prior belief of Q, but only friend type is offering the gift. Player 2 will update his belief in the equilibrium. So, in this case, because friend type is moving in this direction and enemy type is moving in this direction. So, if this information set is reached, it means this node has reached, because only friend type is offering a gift. So, Q is equal to 1, and if Q is equal to 1, accept is better than reject. So, player 2 will accept, and if player 2 will accept, we have already figured out what is the best response from player 1, that is GF GE. So, this cannot be an equilibrium. Why? Because best response of GF NE is A and best response of A is GF GE. So, it is very similar to what we were doing in case of Nash equilibrium and SPNE. The only thing is that we have to take care of now the belief system that is coming here. Okay. So, what we saw, there cannot be any perfect Bayesian equilibrium in which the friend type offers a gift and enemy type does not offer a gift. Now, let us look at the other possibility in which friend type does not offer a gift and enemy type offers a gift. In this case, q has to be equal to 0. Why? Because now the game is, let me use the blue coloring, game would move if it is enemy type, player 1 is of enemy type, then game would move in this direction, and if player 1 is of friend type, then game would move in this direction. So, clearly if this information set is reached, then this node has reached, and there 1 minus q has to be equal to 1, implying q has to be equal to 0. So, in this case player 2 will reject, and if player 2 rejects, we have calculated earlier the best response from player 1 would be NF NE. Okay. So, again we do not have any Nash perfect Bayesian equilibrium in which player 1 plays NF GE, and we have covered all the possibilities. What we saw that in this game we have pulling equilibrium, but we do not have separating equilibrium. So, before we close, let me give you the guidelines how to figure out all the perfect Bayesian equilibriums of any dynamic dynamic incomplete information game, dynamic Bayesian games. So, first step that you have seen, what I have been doing, that I am starting with strategy of one of the player, strategy of one of the players. Start, this is the first step. The second step is that if possible calculate the updated belief of the at all the information set which are not singleton. So, calculate updated belief. If possible, because we saw in some of the cases we could not calculate the updated belief. In those cases, what should you do? You should start with any prior belief and any arbitrary prior belief and keep it. Third step would be that given the updated belief or given that taken belief, calculate the optimal action of the other player. The fourth and the last step would be that check whether player 1 strategy, whose strategy we started with, let us check whether player 1's strategy is the best response to player's 2 strategy. If so, then you have found a perfect Bayesian equilibrium. Check the best response of player 1 given the strategy, given the optimal response strategy obtained in step 3, and if it matches with the first one, then you have obtained the perfect Bayesian equilibrium, and this is the way you can calculate perfect Bayesian equilibrium in any of the games in which you have dynamic Bayesian setting. Thank you very much.